As the first pale light of dawn creeps gently over the horizon, the medieval village stirs quietly from its slumber. The sky is a soft wash of muted blues and greys, the air cool and still, carrying the faint scent of dew on grass and earth. The village itself lies nestled among rolling fields, small clusters of humble cottages with thatched roofs, their wooden frames softened by the morning mist. Inside one such cottage, the day begins with a slow, deliberate awakening. The peasant household is simple and sparse. The floor is hard-packed earth, swept clean the night before, and the walls are made of wattle and daub, a lattice of woven sticks plastered with mud and straw. A single hearth sits near the center, its ashes still warm from the evening fire, ready to be rekindled with a few dry twigs. The peasant family shares this small space with their animals. Chickens roosting quietly in a corner, perhaps a pig or a goat tethered nearby. The animal's presence adds a gentle rustling, a soft chorus to the waking day. The air inside is tinged with the faint smoke of the hearth and the earthy aroma of straw and wood. Slowly the peasant rises from a simple bed of straw and rough linen. There is no rush, no alarm clock or sudden noise to startle the senses. Instead, the body moves with a practiced ease, accustomed to the rhythm of the seasons and the demands of the land. The morning light filters softly through the small shuttered window, casting long shadows that stretch across the floor. The first task is to tend to the animals. Outside, the village is still quiet, except for the occasional crow of a rooster, a reminder that the day has truly begun. The peasant steps out into the cool morning air, the ground damp beneath their feet. The sky above is a pale canvas, promising the slow warmth of the sun as it rises. The chickens are gathered gently, their feathers ruffled by the soft breeze. The peasant scatters grain collected the day before, watching as the birds peck eagerly at their meal. Nearby, the cows stand patiently, waiting to be milked. The peasant settles on a low stool, the wooden surface worn smooth by years of use, and begins the slow, rhythmic task of milking. The sound of the milk hitting the pail is steady and soothing. Sheep are checked next, their woolly bodies huddled together in the pen. The peasant inspects them carefully, ensuring none are injured or ill. These animals are more than livestock. They are vital companions in the struggle to survive, sources of milk, wool, and sometimes meat. Returning to the cottage, the peasant rekindles the hearth fire. A small flame is coaxed to life, growing steadily into a warm glow that fills the room with gentle light and heat. The first meal of the day is prepared with quiet care. There is no abundance here. Breakfast is simple and nourishing, designed to sustain the body through long hours of labor. A coarse loaf of bread, baked from rye or barley grown in the fields, is sliced carefully. A bowl of pottage, a thick stew made from vegetables such as peas, onions, and carrots, simmers gently over the fire. Sometimes a bit of salted pork or cheese is added, but meat is a rare luxury. The peasant eats slowly, savoring each bite, mindful of the strength it will provide. As the sun begins to rise higher, casting a warm glow over the village, preparations are made for the day's work. Tools are gathered, wooden handles smoothed by use, iron blades sharpened carefully. The peasant dresses in simple garments of coarse wool or linen, patched and mended over time. Leather shoes, worn but sturdy, protect the feet from the uneven earth. Before leaving the cottage, a moment is taken to glance around the small home. The few possessions are practical. A wooden chest holding spare clothing, a handful of cooking pots, a broom made from twigs tied to a stick. There is little decoration, but the space is lived in and loved. A refuge from the demands of the outside world. Stepping outside once more, the peasant joins others in the village. The soft murmur of greetings is exchanged, voices low and steady. There is a shared understanding among these neighbors. Each is bound to the land and to one another by the unyielding cycle of seasons and toil. The morning chores continue with gathering water from the village well. The bucket, heavy with cold water, is carried back carefully. This water will be used not only for drinking, but for cooking and washing. Clean water is precious, and the task is performed with respect and care. With the animals fed and the household prepared, the peasant turns toward the fields. The day's labour awaits, but for now, there is a moment of stillness, a breath taken in the cool morning air, the gentle sounds of the village waking around them. This slow, deliberate start to the day, marked by simple tasks and quiet reflection, sets the tone for the hours to come. It is a life shaped by nature's rhythms, by the steady demands of survival, and by the small, enduring joys found in routine and community. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the village slowly awakens to the full light of day. The peasant, having completed the morning's first tasks, now turns toward the fields, the heart of their daily labour and the source of their very survival. The fields stretch outward, like a patchwork quilt of earth and green. Bordered by hedgerows and winding dirt paths, each plot a testament to the patient work of many hands across many seasons. The tools the peasant carries are simple, yet essential. A wooden plough, pulled by oxen or sometimes horses, is the primary instrument for breaking the soil in preparation for planting. Its heavy frame creaks softly as it moves, the iron tip gouging deep furrows into the earth. Alongside this, the sickle, a curved blade with a wooden handle, waits for the harvest, ready to cut through ripe stalks of grain. The spade, sturdy and worn, is used for turning soil, digging drainage ditches, or uprooting stubborn weeds. Each tool bears the marks of long use. The handles are smooth from years of gripping, the blades dulled and sharpened again countless times. These implements are more than mere objects. They are extensions of the peasant's body, vital partners in the endless dialogue with the land. The work itself changes with the seasons, each bringing its own demands and challenges. In early spring, the fields are soft and damp from melting snows and rains. The peasant begins by ploughing, turning the earth to prepare it for sowing. This is a slow, arduous process, requiring steady strength and careful guidance of the plough to create straight, even furrows. The soil can be heavy and resistant, clinging to the blade, while the weather is often chilly and unpredictable. Once the ground is broken, seeds are sown by hand. Grain such as barley, rye, or oats is scattered carefully along the furrows. The peasant walks slowly, their steps measured, ensuring the seeds are evenly distributed. This act of planting is quiet and deliberate, a hopeful gesture toward the coming months. The summer months are also a time for other labors, repairing fences, maintaining irrigation ditches, and gathering wild herbs or berries from the nearby woods. The peasant's body is marked by these tasks. Hands are rough and calloused, fingers stained with soil. The skin exposed to sun and wind, is weathered and toughened. Yet beneath this rugged exterior lies a quiet strength, born of necessity and endurance. As autumn approaches, the fields transform once more. The grain ripens, turning golden under the fading sun. Harvest time is both a relief and a race against the coming cold. The peasant wields the sickle with practiced ease, cutting the stalks close to the ground. The sound of the blade slicing through the grain is steady and rhythmic, a soft whisper against the backdrop of rustling fields. Bundles of grain are gathered and tied into sheaves, then transported to the village for threshing. This process separates the edible kernels from the stalks, a task often shared among neighbours in a communal effort. The harvested grain will be stored carefully, a vital reserve to see the household through the winter months. Throughout all these labours, the weather remains an unpredictable companion. Rain may fall suddenly, turning the fields to mud and halting work. Harsh winds can strip leaves from plants or scatter seeds before they take root. The peasant learns to read these signs, adjusting their efforts with patience and resilience. The landscape itself is alive with subtle changes. Birds flit among the hedgerows, insects hum softly in the warm air, and the soil beneath the peasant's feet carries the faint scent of earth and growing things. Each day in the fields is a conversation with nature, a balance of effort and observation. The peasant's movements are deliberate and unhurried. There is no rush, only the steady rhythm of planting, tending, and harvesting. The body moves with a quiet grace, shaped by years of repetition and necessity. Every motion is purposeful. The bend to gather a handful of soil, the steady grip on the plough, the careful placement of seeds. This work is not glamorous, nor is it easy. It demands patience, care, and a deep connection to the land. The peasant's hands, roughened by earth and tool, tell the story of this intimate relationship. The body, though tired at day's end, carries the quiet pride of survival as the sun arcs across the sky, casting long shadows over the furrows and fields. The peasant continues this timeless labor. Each day is a small chapter in the ongoing story of the land and its people, a story of endurance, hope, and the slow unfolding of life through the seasons. As the sun climbs steadily toward its zenith, the long morning of labor gradually yields to a gentler rhythm. Around midday, the peasant, weary but steady, pauses the day's toil and returns home for a brief rest. This interlude is not merely a break from work, but a vital moment of renewal, a quiet space carved out in the relentless cycle of seasons and survival. The village itself seems to breathe softly at this hour. The fields, where the peasant has been bent over the earth, stretch outward in muted greens and browns, basking in the warm light. The air is filled with a gentle chorus. The distant bleating of sheep, the soft clucking of hens, and the occasional murmur of voices from nearby cottages. Children's laughter drifts faintly, a delicate thread weaving through the calm. Inside the peasant's humble home, the hearth still glows faintly, a comforting presence even in the midday light. The walls, made of wattle and daub, hold the warmth of the morning fire, and the earthen floor is cool beneath bare feet. This small space, shared with family, and often livestock, offers shelter and solace. The midday meal is simple and unhurried. Pottage, a thick stew of grains and vegetables, simmers gently over the fire. This staple dish is a humble but nourishing mixture, often made from whatever the land and season provide: peas, onions, carrots, leeks, and sometimes bits of salted pork or cheese, when available. The pot bubbles quietly, its aroma mingling with the faint scent of smoke and earth. The peasant sits close to the hearth, a wooden bowl cradled in rough hands. Each spoonful of pottage is eaten slowly, savoured, not for pleasure, but for sustenance. The texture is thick and hearty, the flavours mild but comforting. Bread, usually coarse and dense, accompanies the stew. This bread, made from rye or barley, is far from the refined loaves of later centuries. It often contains bits of grit from the millstones, a reminder of the hard work behind every meal. Drinking water is scarce and often unsafe, so the peasant's beverage of choice is usually small beer, a weak, low-alcohol ale brewed daily in the village. This drink, safer than water, is consumed by all ages and provides a modest refreshment to accompany the meal. While eating, the sounds of the village continue softly around the cottage. Neighbours exchange quiet greetings through open windows or doorways. Women sit nearby, their hands busy with spinning wool or mending clothes, the rhythmic click of the spinning wheel adding a gentle background melody. Children play in the dirt outside, their games simple and unhurried, chasing one another or tossing small stones. This midday pause is also a time for stories and shared moments. The village is a close-knit community where news and tales travel by word of mouth. Elders recount memories of past seasons, lessons learned from the land, or the occasional tale of a distant festival or feast day. These stories, told in soft voices, weave a tapestry of connection and continuity, linking the present moment to the past and future. The peasant's rest is brief but essential. The body, taxed by morning labour, finds a moment to recover. The mind, often focused on the immediate demands of survival, allows itself a gentle wandering. The slow unfolding of the day's middle hours offers a rare chance to breathe deeply, to listen to the quiet world, and to prepare for the afternoon's return to work. Outside, the village life moves at a measured pace. Some villagers tend to small gardens, pulling weeds or harvesting herbs. Others repair fences or gather firewood, their movements deliberate and unhurried. The village animals rest or graze nearby, their presence a constant and comforting rhythm in daily life. Women's work continues alongside these tasks. Spinning, weaving, and sewing are never-ending chores, vital to the household's survival. Every thread spun and every garment mended is a quiet act of care, a contribution to the family's well-being. These activities, though repetitive, hold a meditative quality, their steady rhythm echoing the natural cycles of the earth. The midday rest also marks a subtle shift in the day's light and sound. The sun now high casts shorter shadows and bathes the village in a warm golden glow. The air feels heavier, the sounds softer. Even the breeze seems to slow, carrying the faint scent of fresh hay or blooming wildflowers. As the peasant prepares to leave this moment of calm, there is a sense of quiet gratitude for the food that nourishes, for the community that supports, and for the land that sustains. The day's work is far from over, but this pause offers strength and renewal. This gentle interlude, filled with simple meals, soft conversations, and the steady hum of village life, is a vital thread in the fabric of medieval peasant existence. It reminds us that even in the midst of hardship and labour, moments of peace and connection endure. As the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon, casting long, soft shadows across the fields and village lanes, the rhythm of the day gently shifts. The morning's labour has given way to the afternoon's quieter tasks, a collection of chores and craft work that sustain the household and the community. The pace remains calm and deliberate, each movement measured and mindful, performed with care and attention. The village itself seems to settle into a slower tempo. The air grows warmer still, yet carries the faint coolness of approaching evening. Birds flit through the hedgerows, their calls soft and intermittent. The scent of fresh-cut wood mingles with the earthy aroma of tilled soil and drying hay. This is a time of transition, where the day's energy is refocused from the fields to the home and its immediate surroundings. Some peasants turn their attention to the tools of their trade. The wooden handles of hoes, spades, and rakes, worn smooth by months and years of use, are inspected carefully. Splinters are sanded down with rough stones, and cracks in the wood abound with strips of leather or twine. Iron blades are sharpened against coarse whetstones, their edges honed to a fine but durable point. This maintenance is essential. A broken tool can mean lost hours or even days of work, and the peasant knows well the value of every moment. Nearby, fences that mark the boundaries of fields and gardens receive similar care. Wooden stakes are replaced where rot has set in, and woven branches are relaid to fill gaps. The fence is more than a barrier. It is a protector of crops and livestock, a line drawn between cultivated land and the wild beyond. Repairing it is a task done with quiet diligence, the rhythmic tapping of hammer and nails, blending with the ambient sounds of the village. Gardens close to the cottages are tended with equal care. These small plots, often surrounded by low fences or hedges, provide herbs, vegetables, and sometimes flowers. The peasant moves slowly among the rows, pulling weeds with practiced fingers, loosening the soil around young plants and harvesting ripe produce. The scent of fresh herbs, sage, thyme, and parsley, rises gently in the afternoon air. Each plant is a small treasure, cultivated with patience and hope. Gathering firewood is another common chore of the afternoon. Wood is collected from the nearby woods or coppices, chosen carefully for its dryness and suitability for burning. Branches are cut with small axes or saws, then carried back in bundles. This wood will fuel the hearth through the evening and into the night, providing warmth and a place to cook the next meal. The work is steady and unhurried, a physical task that connects the peasant to the land in a tactile way. Inside the home, the women of the household engage in craftwork that is both practical and meditative. Spinning wool is a constant activity, the spindle turning slowly between fingers, drawing fibers into fine threads. The sound of the spinning wheel, when present, is a soft, rhythmic hum, a steady heartbeat in the quiet room. Wool is carded and prepared with care, the texture shifting from coarse tufts to smooth, pliable yarn. Sewing and mending are equally important. Garments, often made from homespun wool or linen, are patched and reinforced to extend their life. Needle and thread move in gentle, repetitive motions, stitching torn seams or darning holes. Each stitch is a small act of preservation, a way to hold together not just fabric, but the fabric of daily life itself. The pace of these tasks is slow and deliberate. There is no hurry, only the steady unfolding of work done well and with intention. The hands move with quiet grace, shaped by years of repetition and necessity. The body, though tired from the morning's labor, finds a different kind of rhythm in these chores, a rhythm that soothes and sustains. Outside, the village continues its gentle hum. Children play quietly in the shade of trees or along the village paths, their laughter light and occasional. Neighbors exchange soft greetings, their voices low and steady. The animals, too, settle into the afternoon calm. Cows chew cud lazily, chickens peck at the ground, and dogs rest near the hearths. In this quiet space between day and night, the peasant's world is one of simple beauty and enduring care. Each chore, each movement, is a thread in the tapestry of life. A life woven slowly, patiently, with hands that know the land and heart that knows the rhythm of the seasons. As the last rays of the sun slip quietly behind the distant hills, the village is bathed in a gentle twilight. The golden glow of the afternoon fades, replaced by the cool enveloping blue of dusk. Shadows lengthen, stretching across the fields and winding lanes, and a hush settles over the land, a tranquil pause between the busyness of day and the stillness of night. Hey. The peasant, hands roughened by labor and body pleasantly weary, returns home along a familiar path. The earth beneath their feet is cool now, the warmth of the day slowly dissipating. The air carries the faintest trace of wood smoke, mingling with the scents of damp grass and distant wildflowers. The sky above is a deepening canvas, streaked with the last hints of rose and lavender, soon to be replaced by the quiet majesty of night. Inside, the hearth is the heart of the home. Its ashes, banked from the morning, are coaxed back to life with careful hands. A few dry twigs and chips of wood are placed atop the embers, and soon a small flame flickers, growing steadily into a welcoming glow. The fire's warmth spreads outward, pushing back the evening chill, filling the room with a gentle, golden light. The preparation of supper is an unhurried ritual. The peasant moves quietly, gathering what the day and season have provided. A pot is set upon the hearth, and into it go the humble ingredients of a simple meal. Perhaps a handful of beans, a few root vegetables, a scrap of salted meat or cheese if fortune has been kind. The pot simmers softly, sending up the earthy aroma of nourishment and care. Bread, coarse and dense, is sliced with a worn knife, its crust thick and satisfying. Sometimes there is a bowl of pottage left from midday, reheated and shared among the family. The meal is modest, but it is enough. Each bite is a reminder of the day's work, of the land's quiet generosity, and of the enduring rhythms that shape peasant life. As the meal cooks, the cottage is illuminated by the gentle light of candles or rushlights. These simple lamps, slender reeds dipped in tallow, or small wicks floating in shallow bowls of fat, cast a soft, flickering glow. Shadows dance along the walls, lending the space a sense of intimacy and calm. The light is not bright, but it is comforting, drawing the family together as the world outside darkens. Supper is eaten slowly, each mouthful savoured in the quiet company of family. There is little talk, only the soft clink of wooden spoons against bowls, and the occasional sigh of contentment. The meal is not just sustenance, it is a moment of togetherness, a pause to reflect on the day's labours and to find comfort in shared presence. Prayer is a common ritual, a brief moment of gratitude and hope. Hands are folded, heads bowed, and words spoken softly into the stillness. The prayer is simple, asking for health, for the safety of loved ones, for the blessing of another day. It is a practice that connects the peasant not only to family, but to the larger rhythms of the world, the rising and setting of the sun, the turning of the seasons, the endless cycle of work and rest. After the meal, the evening unfolds in small, familiar rituals. The hearth is tidied, ashes carefully raked, and wood stacked for the night. Tools used during the day are cleaned and set aside, ready for tomorrow's work. The cottage is swept, its simple furnishings arranged in quiet order. These tasks are performed with gentle care, each one a thread in the fabric of daily life. As the light dims further, the family gathers near the hearth. Sometimes there is a moment for song, a soft lullaby hummed to a drowsy child, or a simple tune shared among adults. The music is quiet, almost meditative, its melody rising and falling like a gentle breeze. At other times, a story is told, an old tale passed down through generations, its words familiar and soothing. The children, if there are any, are tucked into bed with gentle hands. Their sleeping places are simple, straw mattresses or blankets laid near the warmth of the hearth. A lullaby may be sung, its melody drifting through the room, mingling with the crackle of the dying fire. The children's breathing slows, their bodies relaxing into sleep, faces peaceful in the soft glow of candlelight. The adults who prepare for rest, clothes are folded and set aside, and the day's dust is washed from hands and faces with cool water. There is a final glance around the cottage, ensuring that all is in order, that the fire is safely banked, that the doors are secured. The peasant lays down upon a simple bed of straw and linen, the body heavy with honest fatigue. The night outside is deep and quiet. The sky is a vault of stars, their light cold and distant, yet somehow comforting. The village is still, its cottages huddled together like sleeping animals, each one holding its own small world of dreams and rest. Within the cottage, the last candle is extinguished, and darkness settles gently over the room. The peasant closes their eyes, the mind drifting slowly toward sleep. There is no hurry, only the slow, steady rhythm of breath, the warmth of the hearth fading into memory, the soft sounds of night rising and falling like the tide. In this final moment, there is a sense of peace, a quiet acceptance of the day that has passed, and a gentle hope for the day to come. The peasant's life is not easy, but it is full of meaning, shaped by the land, the seasons, and the enduring bonds of family and community. As sleep takes hold, the world narrows to a single, comforting truth, that night will pass, and with the dawn, the steady rhythm of life will begin anew. The pulse of daily life. In the quiet world of the medieval peasant, water and fire were not mere conveniences. They were the very pulse of daily existence. These elemental forces shaped every moment, from the first light of dawn to the fading glow of dusk. Tonight we immerse ourselves in the rhythms of water and fire, exploring how peasants drew life from wells and streams, kindled warmth and sustenance from hearths, and wove these vital elements into the fabric of their survival. Water, the lifeblood of the village. Water was the foundation of medieval peasant life. It nourished crops, quenched thirst, cleansed bodies, and sustained animals. Yet, access to clean water was often a challenge, demanding effort, knowledge, and care. Sources and collection. Peasants typically sourced water from wells, springs, streams, or rainwater collected in barrels. Wells were communal lifelines, deep shafts dug by hand, lined with stone or wood to prevent collapse. Drawing water required strength and patience, using buckets and ropes, often multiple trips each day. Streams and springs offered fresh water, but could be distant or seasonally unreliable. Rainwater harvesting was a practical supplement, with barrels placed beneath thatched roofs to catch and store precious drops. Water in daily tasks. Water was central to cooking, washing, and cleaning. Meals were prepared by boiling or stewing ingredients in pots over the fire, requiring frequent water replenishment. Washing clothes and bodies was laborious, often done at streams or communal washhouses, with sand or ashes used as scrubbing agents. Water was precious and conserved carefully. Spills were rare, and every drop was valued. Children learned early to respect water's importance, helping carry buckets and tend animals' drinking troughs. Fire. The hearth of the home fire was the heart of the medieval peasant home. It provided warmth against cold nights, light in the darkness, and the means to prepare food. But fire was also a force to be respected and carefully managed. Fuel was mostly wood, gathered from nearby forests or coppices. Peasants collected dead branches, split logs, and stored wood carefully to dry. Peat and charcoal were less common, but sometimes used. Kindling and fuel. Starting a fire was an art. Peasants used flint and steel, tinder made from dry grass or bark, and kindling gathered from twigs and small branches. Maintaining a fire required constant attention, adding wood at intervals, managing embers, and ensuring safety. The hearth's role. The hearth was more than a cooking place. It was a social and spiritual center. Families gathered around the fire for warmth and companionship. The fire's glow illuminated stories, songs, and prayers, weaving community bonds. Cooking was done in pots hung over the fire or placed among coals. Baking was often communal, with village ovens fired periodically to conserve fuel. The fire's heat was also used for drying herbs, curing meats, and warming beds with hot stones. The interplay of water and fire. Water and fire were balanced elements in peasant life. Water quenched fire, cleaned pots, and cooled overheated tools. Fire heated water for cooking, washing, and bathing. Managing this balance was crucial. Too much water could smother a fire. Too little could leave a family cold and hungry. Peasants learned through experience to harmonize these elements, adapting to weather, season, and circumstance. Daily rituals and seasonal cycles. The daily routine revolved around water and fire. Morning began with fetching water and rekindling the hearth. Meals punctuated the day, each requiring careful preparation and cleanup. Seasonal changes influenced these tasks. Winter demanded more firewood and careful water storage to prevent freezing. Summer brought opportunities to wash more frequently and gather rainwater. Challenges and adaptations. Peasants faced many challenges: droughts, floods, scarce wood, and the ever-present risk of fire spreading. They developed communal strategies for water sharing, fire safety, and resource management. The quiet power of water and fire. Water and fire were more than elements. They were lifelines, teachers, and companions in the medieval peasant's world. Their careful stewardship was a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. As you rest tonight, imagine the cool splash of water drawn from a well, the crackling warmth of a hearth fire, and the steady rhythm of life sustained by these elemental forces. Calm and relax, living and working together. In the quiet world of the medieval peasant, animals were far more than livestock. They were companions, helpers, and vital partners in the daily struggle for survival. Tonight, we step softly into the life of a medieval farm, exploring the deep bonds between peasants and their animals, the oxen that pulled heavy plows, the cows that provided milk, the chickens that laid eggs, and the dogs that guarded and guided. The oxen and horses, the power behind the plough. The backbone of medieval farming was the draft animal. Oxen, sturdy and patient, were the preferred beasts for pulling ploughs and carts. Their strength transformed the earth, turning heavy soil into fertile ground. Horses, faster but more expensive, were sometimes used for lighter tasks or by wealthier peasants. The relationship between peasant and ox was intimate. Animals were fed carefully, groomed and rested to maintain their strength. The yoke was fitted with care to avoid injury, and the ploughman's skill in guiding the team was essential for straight, even furrows. Cows and goats, providers of milk and more. Cows were prized for their milk, a staple of the peasant diet. Milk was consumed fresh, turned into cheese, or churned into butter. Goats, hardier and easier to keep, supplemented dairy needs, especially in poorer or hillier regions. These animals required daily milking, feeding, and shelter. Their health was closely monitored, as a sick cow could mean hardship for the family. Calves were nurtured carefully, ensuring the next generation of livestock. Sheep and wool, the fabric of life. Sheep provided wool, essential for clothing and household textiles. Shearing was a seasonal ritual, followed by spinning and weaving. Wool was a valuable commodity, sometimes traded or sold to supplement income. Sheep also provided meat and milk, making them versatile farm companions. Their grazing helped maintain pastures, and their manure enriched the soil. Chickens, ducks, and other poultry. Small but vital. Poultry were a constant source of eggs and meat. Chickens scratched in the dirt, eating insects and seeds, while ducks often lived near water sources. Their care was less demanding, but no less important. Eggs were collected daily, providing protein and a vital ingredient for cooking and baking. Poultry also played a role in village festivals and feasts. Dogs and cats, guardians and pest controllers. Dogs were loyal protectors of the farm, guarding livestock and property. Some assisted in herding sheep or cattle, their intelligence and training invaluable to the peasant. Cats controlled vermin, protecting grain stores from rats and mice. Their presence was both practical and comforting, a quiet companionship in the long days and nights. The social and spiritual bonds. Animals were woven into the social and spiritual fabric of peasant life. Blessings were sought for herds, and animals featured in festivals and rituals. Stories and songs celebrated their importance, reflecting a deep respect and affection. Challenges and care. Keeping animals healthy was a constant challenge. Disease, injury, and harsh weather threatened livestock. Peasants used herbal remedies, practical knowledge, and community support to care for their animals. The medieval peasant's farm was a world of interdependence and care. Animals were not just property but partners, their lives intertwined with those of their human keepers. As you rest tonight, imagine the steady breathing of oxen in the barn, the soft clucking of hens, and the faithful gaze of a dog, a testament to resilience, companionship, and the enduring bond between man and beast. The cycle of life and labour. In the medieval world, the passing of the seasons was not just a measure of time, it was the very rhythm that governed peasant life. From the first thaw of spring to the biting cold of winter, each season brought its own challenges, labours and moments of respite. Tonight we journey through the year with the medieval peasant, exploring how the changing seasons shaped their work, their homes, and their communities. Spring, renewal and rebirth. Spring was a time of hope and hard work. The land, long dormant under winter's grip, began to awaken. Peasants prepared their strips of land for sowing, breaking the soil with ploughs pulled by oxen or horses. The fields were sown with rye, oats, peas and barley, crops that would sustain the village through the coming year. The delay of spring could be disastrous. A late thaw meant fields remained barren longer, pastures lacked fresh grass, and food supplies dwindled. Peasants watched the skies and the earth, praying for warmth and rain. The church calendar marked sowing days with feasts and prayers, blending faith with farming. Summer, growth and vigilance. Summer was a season of tending and watching. Crops grew tall under the sun, but the threat of pests, drought, or storms loomed. Peasants weeded, watered, and guarded their fields, often working from dawn till dusk. Children helped with lighter tasks, learning the rhythms of the land. Women spun wool, mended clothes, and prepared food. The village was alive with the sounds of labour and life. Autumn, harvest and preparation. Autumn was the most crucial season. The harvest determined survival. Using sickles and scythes, peasants cut grain, gathered vegetables, and stored food carefully. Cooperative labour was common, with neighbours helping each other bring in the harvest. As the days shortened, preparations for winter began. Firewood was gathered, homes were repaired, and food was preserved through drying, salting, or fermenting. The church calendar marked harvest festivals, times of thanksgiving and rest. Winter, endurance and community. Winter was a season of hardship and reflection. Cold temperatures and snow made work difficult. Peasant homes, often poorly insulated, were warmed by hearth fires and the shared body heat of family and livestock. Work slowed, but did not cease. Villagers repaired tools, spun wool, and cared for animals. Communal strategies, like frost watches and wood-gathering teams, helped survival. The church's many holy days provided much-needed breaks. The impact of weather and climate. Weather was a constant variable. Delays in spring, harsh winters, or wet summers could devastate crops and food stores. Peasants adapted through careful planning, communal labour, and knowledge passed down through generations. Social and cultural life through the seasons. Seasonal changes influence social life. Festivals, fairs, and religious observances punctuated the year, providing relief from labour and reinforcing community bonds. Storytelling, music, and games flourished in the slower months. Living in harmony with the seasons. The medieval peasant's life was a delicate dance with nature's cycles. Each season brought its own demands and gifts, shaping a world where survival depended on skill, faith, and community. As you rest tonight, imagine the turning of the year, the thawing fields, the golden harvest, the quiet fires of winter, and the enduring spirit of those who lived by the seasons. Living in harmony with the seasons. The medieval peasant's life was a delicate dance with nature's cycles. Each season brought its own demands and gifts, shaping a world where survival depended on skill, faith, and community. As you rest tonight, imagine the turning of the year, the thawing fields, the golden harvest, the quiet fires of winter, and the enduring spirit of those who lived by the seasons. In the tapestry of medieval village life, the peasant's home was more than just a shelter. It was the centre of family life, the stage for daily rituals, and a quiet testament to the resilience and ingenuity of ordinary people. These homes, humble yet enduring, were shaped by the land, the seasons, and the hands that built and cared for them. Tonight, let us step softly into the world of the medieval peasant's home, exploring how it was constructed, how warmth was preserved through the coldest nights, and how daily maintenance kept the household running season after season. In the tapestry of medieval village life, the peasant's home was more than just a shelter. It was the centre of family life, the stage for daily rituals, and a quiet testament to the resilience and ingenuity of ordinary people. These homes, humble yet enduring, were shaped by the land, the seasons, and the hands that built and cared for them. Tonight, let us step softly into the world of the medieval peasant's home, exploring how it was constructed, how warmth was preserved through the coldest nights, and how daily maintenance kept the household running season after season. The process began with a simple wooden frame, often using whatever straight timbers could be harvested nearby. Flexible branches, usually hazel or willow, were woven horizontally between upright posts to create a strong, basket-like lattice called the wattle. Over this, a thick daub was applied, a mixture of mud, clay, sand, straw, and sometimes animal dung, or even ox blood. This blend, when dried, formed surprisingly sturdy and well-insulated walls, capable of withstanding cold winds and rain when properly maintained. Construction. Building with nature's gifts. A medieval peasant's home began with the land itself. Everything used in its construction came from the immediate surroundings, and the choice of materials depended entirely on geography. In forested regions, timber, oak, pine, or ash, was the backbone of the structure. Where trees were scarce, stone was used, stacked without mortar, or held together with a crude mix of lime and mud. But the real secret to medieval peasant homes lay in the humble art of wattle and daub. The roof was almost always thatched, made from bundles of straw or reeds tied to wooden rafters. Thatch was not only abundant and affordable, but it also provided excellent insulation, keeping the home cool in summer and warm in winter. A well-maintained thatched roof could last for decades, though it required regular attention to prevent leaks and rot. Heating, surviving the cold. Medieval winters were harsh, and without modern insulation or central heating, peasants relied on a combination of ingenuity and community to stay warm. The hearth was the heart of the home, both literally and figuratively. Positioned centrally, it provided heat for cooking and warmth for the family. The fire was rarely allowed to go out, and ashes from the previous night were banked to help rekindle the flames each morning. The size and design of a peasant's house reflected the family's status and resources. The most common form in England was the cruck house, named for its distinctive curved timber frames. Larger homes might have a central hall with a hearth, while smaller cottages were often a single room, shared by the entire family, and sometimes even their animals. Communal strategies were also common. Villages organized shared warming spaces, such as communal halls or even churches, where people could gather and benefit from shared body heat. Some churches had special warming rooms called calefactories, designed to shelter the vulnerable during the coldest spells. Manor records show that these spaces were carefully managed, with families taking turns hosting gatherings to maximize warmth and conserve fuel. On the coldest nights, families would bring livestock, especially cows or goats, inside the house to share body heat and protect the animals from predators. The warmth of a living creature could make a significant difference, especially in a small, enclosed space. Fuel was precious, so peasants made the most of every resource. Firewood was gathered and rationed carefully. Communal baking days were scheduled to maximize the heat from village ovens, with families baking bread, pies and stews in sequence to save fuel. In some places, hot rocks from the communal oven were wrapped and used as bed warmers, tucked beneath blankets to take the chill off a straw mattress. Daily maintenance, the never-ending chores. The medieval peasant's home required constant care. The wattle and daub walls, though sturdy, were vulnerable to rain and pests. After every heavy storm, cracks might appear and the daub would need to be reapplied or patched. This was a community effort. Neighbours often helped each other reinforce walls or replace sections of thatch before the next season's storm. The thatched roof, too, demanded vigilance. Loose or rotting bundles were replaced, and the roof was combed to keep it neat and shed water efficiently. Thatch was susceptible to fire, so open flames were handled with care, and the hearth was always tended attentively. The thatched roof, too, demanded vigilance. Loose or rotting bundles were replaced, and the roof was combed to keep it neat and shed water efficiently. Thatch was susceptible to fire, so open flames were handled with care, and the hearth was always tended attentively. Hygiene was a challenge. Without soap as we know it, peasants relied on water from rivers, lakes, or rain barrels for washing. Clothes were scrubbed with sand or ashes, and hands were rinsed before meals. Bathing was infrequent, but not unknown, especially in the warmer months. Every season brought its own maintenance tasks. In spring and summer, homes were aired out, and new layers of daub were applied. Autumn meant preparing for winter, repairing roofs, gathering extra firewood, and sealing drafts. Winter was a time for vigilance, keeping the fire alive and the family safe from the cold. Every season brought its own maintenance tasks. In spring and summer, homes were aired out and new layers of daub were applied. Autumn meant preparing for winter, repairing roofs, gathering extra firewood, and sealing drafts. Winter was a time for vigilance, keeping the fire alive and the family safe from the cold. The medieval peasant's home was a living thing, built from the land, shaped by the seasons, and sustained by daily care. It was a place of warmth in winter, cool refuge in summer, and the heart of family and community life all year round. Though humble by modern standards, these homes were marvels of resourcefulness and adaptation, their walls holding stories of survival, ingenuity, and quiet endurance. As you drift into rest, imagine the gentle crackle of the hearth, the scent of thatch and earth, the soft hush of a family settling in for the night. The medieval peasant's home endures, not just in stone and timber, but in the memory of hands that built, cared, and called it home. The everyday reality of sickness. In the quiet rhythms of medieval village life, illness and injury were ever-present companions. For the peasant, disease was not an exception, but a normal part of existence, woven into the fabric of daily toil, the changing seasons, and the fragile balance between survival and hardship. Tonight we will gently explore how medieval peasants managed sickness and wounds, relying on a blend of herbal knowledge, religious faith, community care, and practical remedies passed down through generations. Medieval medicine was deeply rooted in the theory of the four humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Health was believed to depend on the balance of these bodily fluids, and illness was seen as a sign of imbalance. When one humour overwhelmed the others, the body fell into sickness. Peasants, often lacking access to formal physicians, understood illness through this lens, interpreting symptoms as clues to which humour was out of balance. Treatments aimed to restore harmony, whether by bloodletting to remove excess blood, inducing vomiting, or purging the bowels. Alongside these medical theories, illness was also perceived as a spiritual trial or even punishment for sin. Prayer, fasting, and pilgrimage to holy sites were common responses, blending the physical and spiritual worlds in the quest for healing. Herbal remedies, nature's medicine chest. Herbs and plants formed the cornerstone of peasant medicine. Monasteries cultivated medicinal gardens, preserving knowledge from classical texts. But much of this wisdom was shared informally among villagers, especially women, known as wise women or herbalists. Common herbs included rose, lavender, sage, and hay for headaches and aching joints. Henbane and hemlock applied to soothe joint pain. Coriander to reduce fevers. Wormwood, mint, and balm for stomach ailments. Licorice and comfrey for lung problems. Myrrh and vinegar as antiseptics for wounds. These remedies were prepared as poultices, infusions, or salves, often accompanied by prayers or charms. The scent of herbs filled homes, mingling with the earthy aromas of daily life. Hands gathering and preparing herbs, drying plants in sunlight. Close-ups of poultices, infusions, and salves being applied. Soft, natural sounds. 3. The role of women and community care. Women were the primary caregivers within the peasant household. Mothers, wives, and wise women tended to the sick, with practical knowledge handed down through generations. They gathered herbs, prepared remedies, and offered comfort. Midwives played a crucial role during childbirth, a perilous time for mother and child alike. Their expertise in herbal medicine and birthing techniques was vital to the community's survival. Communities also cared for their own. Neighbours might assist with nursing the ill, sharing food and firewood, and offering prayers. Healing was a collective effort, blending practical care with spiritual support. Soft scenes of women preparing remedies, midwives assisting birth, neighbours helping each other, warm interior lighting. 4. Treatments and procedures, practical and spiritual. For injuries and illnesses, peasants used a variety of treatments. Cleaning wounds with vinegar or mint to prevent infection. Applying honey for its natural antiseptic properties. Bloodletting, performed by cutting veins or using leeches to rebalance humours. Purging with laxatives or emetics to cleanse the body. Surgery was rare and risky, but sometimes necessary. Barbers or local healers might set broken bones or remove arrows. These procedures were crude, but often life-saving. Religious rituals accompanied treatment. Prayers, holy water, and relics were believed to drive out evil spirits causing illness. Pilgrimages to shrines offered hope for miraculous cures. Illustrations of wound cleaning, honey application, bloodletting tools, simple surgeries. Herbal remedies, nature's medicine chest. Herbs and plants formed the cornerstone of peasant medicine. Monasteries cultivated medicinal gardens, preserving knowledge from classical texts. But much of this wisdom was shared informally among villagers, especially women known as wise women or herbalists. Common herbs included rose, lavender, sage and hay for headaches and aching joints, henbane and hemlock applied to soothe joint pain, coriander to reduce fevers, wormwood, mint and balm for stomach ailments, licorice and comfrey for lung problems, myrrh and vinegar as antiseptics for wounds. These remedies were prepared as poultices, infusions or salves, often accompanied by prayers or charms. The scent of herbs filled homes, mingling with the earthy aromas of daily life. Gentle watercolor of herb gardens, hands gathering and preparing herbs, drying plants in sunlight, close-ups of poultices, infusions and salves being applied, soft natural sounds.
1. Women were the primary caregivers within the peasant household. Mothers, wives and wise women tended to the sick with practical knowledge handed down through generations. They gathered herbs, prepared remedies, and offered comfort. Midwives played a crucial role during childbirth, a perilous time for mother and child alike. Their expertise in herbal medicine and birthing techniques was vital to the community's survival. Communities also cared for their own. Neighbors might assist with nursing the ill, sharing food and firewood, and offering prayers. Healing was a collective effort, blending practical care with spiritual support. Soft scenes of women preparing remedies, midwives assisting birth, neighbors helping each other, warm interior lighting. 4. Treatments and procedures, practical and spiritual. For injuries and illnesses, peasants used a variety of treatments, cleaning wounds with vinegar or mint to prevent infection, applying honey for its natural antiseptic properties, bloodletting, performed by cutting veins or using leeches to rebalance humours, whirring womans, or in Aubin for my moments, release teeth with cloths dipped in salt or herbs like cloves. These practices, though basic, reflect a desire to maintain health amid challenging conditions. Watercolour scenes of washing hands and faces, communal bathhouses, chewing hazel twigs, soft, natural light.
The management of illness and injury among medieval peasants was a delicate balance of knowledge, belief, and community. Though primitive by modern standards, their practices reveal a profound connection to the natural world and a deep commitment to caring for one another. As you rest tonight, imagine the quiet strength of these healers, women tending wounds by firelight, neighbors offering comfort, prayers whispered in hope. Their world was one of hardship, yes, but also of enduring care and resilience. The foundation of medieval life. In the quiet, enduring life of the medieval peasant, the garden was a vital sanctuary, a place where survival met skill and nature's bounty was coaxed from the earth by patient hands. Tonight, we journey into the world of medieval peasant gardening, exploring the simple yet ingenious tools and techniques that shaped their daily toil and sustained their families through the seasons. The essential tools: simple, durable, effective. Medieval peasants relied on a collection of basic tools, crafted from wood, iron, and natural fibers, designed to last through years of hard use. These implements were not luxury items, but essential companions in the struggle to cultivate the land. The plough was the cornerstone of medieval agriculture. Early peasants used the ard, a light plough that scratched the soil surface. Later, the heavy mould-board plough revolutionized farming by cutting deeper furrows and turning the earth over, burying weeds and preparing the soil for sowing. Pulled by oxen or horses, these ploughs were slow and demanding, but vital for breaking tough soils. The wheeled plough, with adjustable depth control, was used in lighter soils, but struggled in heavy clay. Despite their weight and difficulty, these ploughs expanded the area that peasants could cultivate, increasing food production and community stability. The hoe and spade. Hand tools like the hoe and spade were the workhorses of the garden. The hoe, with its flat blade, was used to break up soil, remove weeds, and shape planting rows. The spade, sturdier and heavier, dug holes, turned earth, and helped build drainage ditches. Every peasant household had at least one of each, their wooden handles worn smooth by years of use. The harrow and rake. After ploughing and sowing, the harrow was used to break clods of earth and cover seeds, made of wooden beams, fitted with iron or wooden teeth. It was often pulled by horses. For those without a harrow, the rake served to gather hay and smooth soil surfaces. The flail and winnowing basket. Harvested grain was threshed using the flail. Two wooden sticks hinged together, swung to separate kernels from stalks. The winnowing basket then separated grain from chaff by tossing it into the air, letting the wind carry away the lighter husks. These tools were simple but essential steps in turning crops into food. Techniques. Working with the land and seasons. Medieval peasants worked in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Their gardening techniques reflected a deep understanding of soil, weather, and plant cycles. Crop rotation and soil care. To maintain soil fertility, peasants practiced crop rotation, alternating grains with legumes or fallow periods. This prevented nutrient depletion and improved yields. Manure and ashes were added to enrich the earth, while careful watering and weeding ensured healthy growth. Fill us the seed, inspiring-minded and sit, panging to fee, last and feet, creating the second, be, in the seed, and fuse to seed, in the night, and the light. Planting and harvesting. Seeds were sown by hand in carefully prepared furrows. Timing was crucial. Too early or too late could mean crop failure. Harvesting was done with precision, using sickles and scythes to gather ripe grain before the rains or frost. Daily care and maintenance. Gardening was a daily commitment. Peasants weeded, watered, pruned and guarded their crops against pests and weather. Tools were maintained meticulously, blades sharpened, handles repaired, and wooden parts oiled or replaced. The social and economic context. Gardening was not only about survival, but also about community and economy. Surplus produce was shared, traded, or sold, supporting village life. Tools and labour were often communal, with neighbours helping each other in planting and harvest seasons. Conclusion. The legacy of medieval gardening. The tools and techniques of medieval peasant gardening were simple yet profound. They embodied a relationship with the land that was patient, respectful, and enduring. As you rest tonight, imagine the steady rhythm of hands in soil, the sharp gleam of a sickle in sunlight, and the quiet satisfaction of seeds sown and harvests gathered, a testament to human resilience and harmony with nature. The pulse of daily life. In the quiet world of the medieval peasant, water and fire were not mere conveniences. They were the very pulse of daily existence. These elemental forces shaped every moment, from the first light of dawn to the fading glow of dusk. Tonight we immerse ourselves in the rhythms of water and fire, exploring how peasants drew life from wells and streams, kindled warmth and sustenance from hearths, and wove these vital elements into the fabric of their survival. Water, the lifeblood of the village. Water was the foundation of medieval peasant life. It nourished crops, quenched thirst, cleansed bodies, and sustained animals. Yet, access to clean water was often a challenge, demanding effort, knowledge, and care. Sources and collection. Peasants typically sourced water from wells, springs, streams, or rainwater collected in barrels. Wells were communal lifelines, deep shafts dug by hand, lined with stone or wood to prevent collapse. Drawing water required strength and patience, using buckets and ropes, often multiple trips each day. Streams and springs offered fresh water, but could be distant or seasonally unreliable. Rainwater harvesting was a practical supplement, with barrels placed beneath thatched roofs to catch and store precious drops. Water in daily tasks. Water was central to cooking, washing, and cleaning. Meals were prepared by boiling or stewing ingredients in pots over the fire, requiring frequent water replenishment. Washing clothes and bodies was laborious, often done at streams or communal washhouses, with sand or ashes used as scrubbing agents. Water was precious and conserved carefully. Spills were rare, and every drop was valued. Children learned early to respect water's importance, helping carry buckets and tend animals' drinking troughs. Fire. The hearth of the home fire was the heart of the medieval peasant home. It provided warmth against cold nights, light in the darkness, and the means to prepare food. But fire was also a force to be respected and carefully managed. Fuel was mostly wood, gathered from nearby forests or coppices. Peasants collected dead branches, split logs, and stored wood carefully to dry. Peat and charcoal were less common, but sometimes used. Kindling and fuel. Starting a fire was an art. Peasants used flint and steel, tinder made from dry grass or bark, and kindling gathered from twigs and small branches. Maintaining a fire required constant attention, adding wood at intervals, managing embers, and ensuring safety. The hearth's role. The hearth was more than a cooking place. It was a social and spiritual center. Families gathered around the fire for warmth and companionship. The fire's glow illuminated stories, songs, and prayers, weaving community bonds. Cooking was done in pots hung over the fire or placed among coals. Baking was often communal, with village ovens fired periodically to conserve fuel. The fire's heat was also used for drying herbs, curing meats, and warming beds with hot stones. The interplay of water and fire. Water and fire were balanced elements in peasant life. Water quenched fire, cleaned pots, and cooled overheated tools. Fire heated water for cooking, washing, and bathing. Managing this balance was crucial. Too much water could smother a fire. Too little could leave a family cold and hungry. Peasants learned through experience to harmonize these elements, adapting to weather, season, and circumstance. Daily rituals and seasonal cycles. The daily routine revolved around water and fire. Morning began with fetching water and rekindling the hearth. Meals punctuated the day, each requiring careful preparation and cleanup. Seasonal changes influenced these tasks. Winter demanded more firewood and careful water storage to prevent freezing. Summer brought opportunities to wash more frequently and gather rainwater. Challenges and adaptations. Peasants faced many challenges: droughts, floods, scarce wood, and the ever-present risk of fire spreading. They developed communal strategies for water sharing, fire safety, and resource management. The quiet power of water and fire. Water and fire were more than elements. They were lifelines, teachers, and companions in the medieval peasant's world. Their careful stewardship was a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. As you rest tonight, imagine the cool splash of water drawn from a well, the crackling warmth of a hearth fire, and the steady rhythm of life sustained by these elemental forces. Calm and relax, living and working together. In the quiet world of the medieval peasant, animals were far more than livestock. They were companions, helpers, and vital partners in the daily struggle for survival. Tonight, we step softly into the life of a medieval farm, exploring the deep bonds between peasants and their animals, the oxen that pulled heavy plows, the cows that provided milk, the chickens that laid eggs, and the dogs that guarded and guided. The oxen and horses, the power behind the plough. The backbone of medieval farming was the draft animal. Oxen, sturdy and patient, were the preferred beasts for pulling ploughs and carts. Their strength transformed the earth, turning heavy soil into fertile ground. Horses, faster but more expensive, were sometimes used for lighter tasks or by wealthier peasants. The relationship between peasant and ox was intimate. Animals were fed carefully, groomed and rested to maintain their strength. The yoke was fitted with care to avoid injury, and the ploughman's skill in guiding the team was essential for straight, even furrows. Cows and goats, providers of milk and more. Cows were prized for their milk, a staple of the peasant diet. Milk was consumed fresh, turned into cheese, or churned into butter. Goats, hardier and easier to keep, supplemented dairy needs, especially in poorer or hillier regions. These animals required daily milking, feeding, and shelter. Their health was closely monitored, as a sick cow could mean hardship for the family. Calves were nurtured carefully, ensuring the next generation of livestock. Sheep and wool, the fabric of life. Sheep provided wool, essential for clothing and household textiles. Shearing was a seasonal ritual, followed by spinning and weaving. Wool was a valuable commodity, sometimes traded or sold to supplement income. Sheep also provided meat and milk, making them versatile farm companions. Their grazing helped maintain pastures, and their manure enriched the soil. Chickens, ducks, and other poultry. Small but vital. Poultry were a constant source of eggs and meat. Chickens scratched in the dirt, eating insects and seeds, while ducks often lived near water sources. Their care was less demanding, but no less important. Eggs were collected daily, providing protein and a vital ingredient for cooking and baking. Poultry also played a role in village festivals and feasts. Dogs and cats, guardians and pest controllers. Dogs were loyal protectors of the farm, guarding livestock and property. Some assisted in herding sheep or cattle, their intelligence and training invaluable to the peasant. Cats controlled vermin, protecting grain stores from rats and mice. Their presence was both practical and comforting, a quiet companionship in the long days and nights. The social and spiritual bonds. Animals were woven into the social and spiritual fabric of peasant life. Blessings were sought for herds, and animals featured in festivals and rituals. Stories and songs celebrated their importance, reflecting a deep respect and affection. Challenges and care. Keeping animals healthy was a constant challenge. Disease, injury, and harsh weather threatened livestock. Peasants used herbal remedies, practical knowledge, and community support to care for their animals. The medieval peasant's farm was a world of interdependence and care. Animals were not just property but partners, their lives intertwined with those of their human keepers. As you rest tonight, imagine the steady breathing of oxen in the barn, the soft clucking of hens, and the faithful gaze of a dog, a testament to resilience, companionship, and the enduring bond between man and beast. Chapter 1. Morning Chores. The day for a medieval servant began long before the household awoke. Even as the first faint light of dawn brushed the sky with soft hues of pink and blue, the servants were already stirring in their modest quarters, tucked away in the shadowed wings or basement levels of the manor house or castle. The air was cool and still, carrying a faint chill that clung to stone walls and wooden beams. The world outside was quiet, save for the occasional crowing of a rooster or the distant bleating of sheep. This was a time of solitude and preparation, a moment before the bustle of the day would unfold. The first task, and perhaps the most vital, was to kindle the fires. In the great hearths of the kitchen and the main hall, the cold stones needed to be warmed, not just for comfort, but for the practical purpose of cooking and heating water. The servant assigned to the hearth would carefully gather dry kindling and wood, often salvaged from the previous day's fire or stored in a cool, dark shed. Lighting a fire was no simple matter. There were no modern lighters or matches. Instead, the servant might use flint and steel, striking sparks carefully onto a small bundle of dry tinder. The sparks would catch, and with gentle blowing, the flames would grow slowly, licking at the kindling until the fire was steady and warm. The warmth spread gradually, casting flickering shadows on the rough stone walls. The soft crackle of burning wood was one of the few sounds in the stillness of early morning. This slow, deliberate task required patience and care, for a fire that failed to catch meant a cold kitchen and delayed preparations for the day. Once the fires were burning steadily, other servants would begin fetching water, Wells were often located outside the main house, sometimes a short walk away. Buckets, heavy and wooden, were lowered into the cool depths, then hauled up filled with water that was dark and still. The sound of water sloshing gently in the buckets was a quiet accompaniment to the morning's work. Water was essential for many tasks, washing, cooking, and cleaning, but it was never taken for granted. Each bucket was heavy, and the journey back and forth was slow and steady, a physical reminder of the effort required to maintain even the simplest comforts. In the kitchen, preparations for the day's meals began. The cook, often assisted by several kitchen maids, would start by grinding grain into flour. This was done using a heavy stone quern, a slow and repetitive motion that could take hours. The rhythmic grinding was almost meditative, the coarse flour slowly accumulating in a wooden bowl. Vegetables, often root crops like onions, leeks, and carrots, were peeled and chopped with care. The knives were simple but sharp, and the kitchen smells began to shift. Cooking pots, heavy and blackened from years of use, were filled with water or broth and set over the fire heat. Pottage, a thick stew of grains, vegetables, and sometimes bits of meat or fish, was a staple. It simmered slowly, the heat coaxing flavors to mingle over many hours. Meanwhile, other servants attended to the cleaning of the household. Floors, often made of packed earth or rough stone, needed sweeping. Brooms were simple bundles of twigs tied together, and the sweeping was a slow, methodical task. Dust and ashes from the hearth were gathered and removed, carried outside to be discarded. The rooms themselves were dim, lit only by small windows covered with oiled parchment or wooden shutters. The light was soft and muted, casting gentle shadows that moved with the flicker of the fires. The air was often thick with smoke from the hearth, a constant presence that stung the eyes and made breathing slightly difficult. In the servants' quarters, the day's routine was already underway. Some servants might dress the lord and lady of the house, a task requiring patience and precision. The ladies' gowns were layered and heavy, made of wool or linen, sometimes embroidered with delicate patterns. Dressing took time, with laces to tie and pins to secure. Others prepared the lord's chambers, making beds with rough woolen blankets and feather-stuffed mattresses, if available. Chamber pots were emptied and cleaned, and basins of water set out for washing. Throughout the manor, the servants moved quietly, but with purpose. There was little room for rest or leisure in these early hours. The day's work was long and demanding, and the servants knew that once the household began to stir, their tasks would multiply. As the sun slowly rose higher, the sounds of the household would begin to change. The lord and lady might rise and begin their own routines, but the servants would remain busy behind the scenes, ensuring that the house ran smoothly. The morning chores were the foundation of the day. Without the fires lit, the water fetched, and the kitchens prepared, the household could not function. It was a world of slow, steady labour, of small tasks repeated with care and diligence. This daily rhythm required endurance and quiet strength. Chapter 2: Endless Cleaning. Cleaning in a medieval household was a task without end. It was a constant, quiet rhythm of work that shaped the daily lives of servants. Unlike modern homes with vacuum cleaners and running water, medieval cleaning required physical effort, patience, and a keen eye for detail. The servants moved slowly but steadily through their chores, knowing that even the smallest crumb or speck of dust was a reminder that their work was never truly finished. The nature of medieval cleaning. In the grand stone halls and timber-framed rooms of a medieval manor or castle, cleanliness was both a necessity and a challenge. Floors were often made of stone or packed earth, covered with rushes or straw to provide warmth and comfort underfoot. These rushes were replaced periodically, but until then, they trapped dust, dirt, and debris. Sweeping was not just about tidying, it was about maintaining a livable environment. Servants used simple tools, brooms made from bound twigs, rough cloths for wiping surfaces, and wooden scrapers to remove stubborn dirt. The work was repetitive and required endurance. From early morning until late evening, servants tended to the hearth ashes, swept floors, cleaned tables, and washed utensils. The pace was slow, deliberate, and methodical. Sweeping the stone floors. One of the most common chores was sweeping the stone floors. The broom was a humble but essential tool, often handmade by binding twigs or straw to a wooden handle. The servants' movements were rhythmic and unhurried, sweeping dust and dirt into small piles to be gathered and removed. The dust motes floated gently in the shafts of sunlight that filtered through narrow windows, creating a quiet, almost magical atmosphere. Each sweep stirred the air softly, and the servant moved with care, mindful not to scatter the dust too widely. The stone floors, worn smooth by countless footsteps, bore the marks of daily life, small cracks, uneven patches, and the faint stains of spilled food or drink. Sweeping was not a one-time task, but a continuous effort. The servants returned to the floors multiple times a day, maintaining a constant state of order amidst the inevitable mess of daily living. Ashes and hearth cleaning. The hearth was the heart of the medieval home, providing warmth and a place to cook. But it also produced ashes and soot that needed regular cleaning. Servants raked out the cold ashes, carefully gathering them into wooden buckets or metal pans. This task required both care and strength. The ashes were heavy and dusty, and the servants worked slowly to avoid stirring up too much dust. The hearthstones were scrubbed and swept clean, ensuring the fire could burn efficiently the next day. Interestingly, these ashes were not simply discarded. They were often reused in other household tasks, such as cleaning greasy pots, or even as a rudimentary soap substitute. The resourcefulness of medieval households meant that nothing was wasted. Wiping and polishing surfaces, wooden tables, benches, and shelves were wiped down regularly with rough cloths, often dampened with water or a mixture of water and vinegar. This helped remove dust, food crumbs, and sticky residues. The cloths themselves were washed frequently, a task often assigned to female servants specializing in laundry. Laundry was a major chore in medieval households, involving hand-washing garments and linens in tubs or nearby streams, sometimes with the addition of natural cleaning agents like ash or fermented urine to create lye for removing stains. Polishing metal utensils and candlesticks was another slow, careful task. Servants used cloths and powders made from natural materials to bring a gentle shine to the household items, mindful that these objects were valuable and often passed down through generations. Laundry and clothing care. While cleaning the household interior was vital, maintaining clean clothing and linens was equally important. Laundry was almost exclusively a female task, managed by a senior laundress in large households. Washing clothes involved soaking, scrubbing, and rinsing by hand, often in cold water. The process was labor-intensive and time-consuming. Clothes were hung outdoors to dry on lines or bushes, weather permitting. In winter, laundry was dried near the hearth, but this posed risks of fire and dampness. Medieval people understood the importance of cleanliness for health, even if their knowledge of germs was limited. Changing linen undergarments frequently was considered essential, as these garments were closest to the skin and helped keep the body clean. The challenge of hygiene without modern conveniences. Without running water or modern cleaning products, medieval servants had to rely on natural materials and ingenuity. Water was fetched from wells or streams and carried carefully to the household. Soap, when available, was often made from animal fats and ashes, a harsh but effective cleaner. For personal hygiene, medieval people bathed less frequently than they do today, but they did wash exposed parts like hands, face, and feet regularly. Public bathhouses existed in towns, and herbal remedies were used to keep skin and hair clean. In the household, cleaning was a way to maintain order and health, but it was also a reminder of the limits of medieval technology and the hard work required to live comfortably. The endless cycle. The cleaning never truly ended. As soon as one task was finished, another awaited. Dust settled again, ashes accumulated, and floors grew dirty with footsteps. Servants accepted this endless cycle as part of their daily lives. Their slow, methodical work created a rhythm, a quiet, steady pulse that kept the household functioning. It was a life of patience, endurance, and constant care.